Welcome to the world of science fiction Neon's Alien. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the notification bell so you never miss a new story from Neon's Alien universe. The wind screamed across the frozen planet. Snow fell like knives. Sharp. Endless. Marcus pulled his coat tighter around his body as he moved through the white storm. His boots crunched on thick ice. His scanner beeped in his hand, showing signs of buried structure nearby. He was alone, sent by his crew to explore a long-abandoned alien outpost on Virex 9, a planet no one cared about anymore. Just scan it and get back, they had said. But Marcus always went deeper than needed, and today, he found something no one expected. The scanner pulsed faster as he reached a tall ridge. Beneath his feet, metal hummed under the snow. He pulled out a small thermal torch and began melting a hole through the ice. Steam hissed. The snow cracked. And then, a deep clang. He had found a door. Marcus forced it open. Cold air rushed past him, filled with a strange metallic scent. He stepped into a dark hallway lined with frozen walls and alien symbols. The lights flickered, weakly. The base was running on emergency power, just barely. He moved slowly, flashlight in hand, reading the walls. Research Facility 12. Biological storage. Keep sealed. He paused. Storage? He whispered. Still active? The hallway led to a wide chamber, and at the center of the room was a cage. Strange metal bars curved around a clear cylinder. Inside it, motionless, sat a girl. Not human. Her skin was pale violet, almost glowing. Her long white hair floated slightly like underwater silk. She was curled in the corner, knees to chest, her eyes closed. And around her, ice. Real ice. Formed inside the cage. Cold breath fogged the glass. Marcus stepped closer. His heart pounded. Was she alive? He wiped the frost from the glass. Suddenly, her eyes opened. Bright silver, wide, empty. She stared straight at him, unmoving, like she wasn't sure if he was real. Marcus stepped back in shock. She's alive. She didn't speak. Didn't move. Just watched him. He knelt beside the cage, tried a few commands on the control panel. The alien text flickered and glitched. Most of it was unreadable. Lock tight, he muttered. The girl blinked once. Her lips parted, just slightly, but no sound came out. She can't talk, Marcus whispered. He looked at her again. Her arms were thin, her face tired. She looked like she hadn't seen another soul in years. Who put you in here? He asked. No answer, but a single tear rolled down her cheek and froze before hitting the floor. Marcus set up camp inside the chamber. He brought a heater, food packs, his sleeping roll, and every few hours, and he sat by the cage, talking to her, telling stories, sharing jokes. Reading old Earth books out loud. She didn't respond, but she always watched him. And somehow, that was enough. The next day, he tried something new. He placed his hand gently on the glass. After a moment, she lifted her hand and matched his. 2 hands. One human, one alien, separated by ice and pain, but touching for the first time. That night, as he lay in his sleeping bag, Marcus looked up at the cracked ceiling. I'm going to get you out of there, he whispered. Behind him, the girl slowly moved closer to the glass and curled up against it, facing him. For the first time, she didn't look completely alone, and for the first time, neither did he. The ice didn't melt, not even with heat. Marcus had tried everything: lasers, tools, fire, even a plasma cutter. But the strange, alien cage didn't respond to anything. It was like the metal wanted to stay cold, like it chose to stay sealed. And the girl inside? Still silent, still watching. He called her Starling because her eyes reminded him of stars. Bright, distant, full of things he didn't understand. She didn't speak, didn't move much. But she listened. Every word, every joke, every story, and sometimes she blinked at the right moment, as if she was answering without sound. One morning, Marcus brought her something different. He had carved a small wooden bird from scrap he found in the storage hall. Rough, uneven, but it had wings. Placed it against the cage. Starling stared at it for a long time. Then, slowly, she moved. She placed her hand gently on the glass. Not on his hand this time. On the bird. Later that evening, Marcus caught her doing something new. She was tracing her finger on the inside of the glass, drawing shapes in the frost, circles, lines, symbols. He recognized none of them, but he knew what she was trying to do. Talk. The next day, Marcus brought a stylus and a portable screen. He set it on the floor, turned it on, and pushed it toward the cage. Starling hesitated, then reached out and touched the screen. She drew one symbol, then another. He scanned the shapes, ran them through translation programs. Nothing. Then finally, he noticed a pattern. The symbols weren't words. They were ideas. She was using her language to express emotions. Fear, loneliness, cold, time. And then, she drew a simple human face with a sad mouth and wrote next to it, "Me." Marcus's chest tightened. "How long have you been here?" he asked. She drew a circle, then 10 small dots inside, he guessed. 10 years? She blinked once. "No one came for you?" She lowered her head. He worked harder after that, tried different tools, studied the base, dug through old logs. The AI system was mostly offline, but he managed to restore a few video records. They showed Starling, young, scared, glowing faintly. Alien scientists in armor watching her like an experiment. They never spoke to her, only tested her, then locked her in the cage. Marcus sat by the fire that night, staring into the flames. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't a hero. He was just a technician sent to fix a beacon. But now, he had to save her, because she wasn't a thing. She wasn't a project. She was a person. And she had waited long enough. That night, just before he fell asleep, he felt something, strange, cold, but not painful. A soft breeze brushed his hand, chill and light like snow. He looked up. Starling had her hand on the glass again, but this time, the frost was moving, not forming, melting, only where her hand touched. Marcus crawled closer. She looked at him, her silver eyes glowing faintly, and for the first time, her lips parted, just barely. A whisper, a breath, a single word. Why? His heart stopped. He leaned closer. Why what? Her voice cracked, dry, small, almost broken. Why? You stay? He smiled, tears in his eyes. Because you shouldn't be alone. And for the first time, she smiled. Not fully, but enough. Enough to tell him. The base had gone quiet. Too quiet. Marcus sat beside the cage watching frost creep across the walls like slow fingers. His heater hummed behind him, but the cold never left. Starling hadn't spoken again since that night. Not with words, but the way she looked at him. Something had changed. He decided to search deeper into the outpost. If she was ever going to be free, he needed answers. He wrapped himself in his thickest coat, grabbed a hand lamp, and entered the back tunnels, sealed for years. The moment he opened the rusted door, his scanner glitched, static. Then, a voice, faint. Contain, hybrid, unauthorized. He froze. The signal wasn't coming from outside. It was coming from inside the walls. As Marcus followed the hallway, more lights flickered on. Slowly, one by one. Like the place knew he was coming. He found a control chamber buried under ice, screens covered in frost. He wiped one clean and tapped the power core. It blinked, then came to life. Words flashed across the screen in ancient alien text. Subject, Elira status, locked class, forbidden, Elira. That was her real name, not Starling. Another file appeared, a grainy video. Marcus watched in silence. A group of alien scientists stood around the cage. A younger version of her floated. Inside, eyes closed, body glowing faintly blue. Subject is unstable, one said in a cold voice. She shows both control and chaos. She must be sealed, permanently, another added. She's not one of us, not anymore. Then the screen cut to black. Marcus sat down hard. His hands were shaking. They hadn't just locked her up for safety. They were afraid of her, because she wasn't like them, and maybe not like anyone else. Back in the cage room, Starling, Elira, sat up slowly as he entered. She looked weak, pale, her eyes searching his face for meaning. He dropped to one knee and spoke gently. "Your name is Elira." She blinked, surprised. "You weren't locked away because you were broken," he said. "You were locked away because they couldn't understand you." She touched the glass lightly, then drew something in the fog. It was a shape, half one circle, half another, two parts. Marcus understood. "You're mixed," he whispered. "Two bloodlines?" She nodded once. Suddenly, the room lights dimmed. The bass hummed again. A new message flashed across the control panel behind him. "Warning, DNA signature match detected. Subject awakening. Begin lockdown protocol." The doors slammed shut. The metal around the cage began to glow faint red. "Elira, what's happening?" Marcus asked, heart racing. Her body trembled. She looked afraid. "Then," she whispered, "you need to go." But Marcus shook his head. "No, I'm staying. I told you." She stared at him, shaking harder now. The ice beneath the cage began to crack. The frost on the walls vanished. And then, the air itself changed, like the base was no longer in control. She was. Marcus reached for her hand on the glass. "You're not dangerous." Elira looked up slowly. "Not to me." The glowing metal flickered, and then stopped. Everything went still. Cold returned, her body relaxed, and for a moment she looked at peace. That night Marcus sat beside her cage with a small radio in his lap. He spoke into it softly, recording his thoughts. Day 19. Her name is Elira. She's not just an alien girl trapped in a cage. She's something powerful, something forgotten. But she's also kind, lonely, and maybe I'm the first person who ever saw her as real. He looked up. Elira had fallen asleep, her hand still resting near his. The cold didn't bother him anymore because somehow he was part of her world now. The cage groaned, not loudly, but enough to wake Marcus from his light sleep. He sat up quickly, eyes adjusting to the dim blue glow filling the chamber. Elira was on her knees, pressed against the inner wall of her cage, her fingers trembling against the glass. Something was happening, something new. Marcus rushed to the console. Lines of alien code scrolled fast. Too fast. The cage wasn't just holding her anymore. It was reacting to her. Containment seal weakening. The warning lights blinked. Energy level unstable. Elira looked at him. She didn't blink. Didn't cry. But her eyes, those glowing silver eyes, were full of one thing: fear. The walls of the cage started to shimmer as if they weren't solid anymore. Ice around the base hissed into steam. Static crawled along the floor. Her body was glowing faint blue again, brighter than ever. Marcus reached out. "Hey, Elira. Breathe. I'm here." She shook her head slowly, like she was trying to fight something inside. The cage groaned louder. A crack appeared on the side, thin like a hairline. But it spread. He stepped closer. "Elira, talk to me. You can control it. I know you can." She clutched her chest and winced, like something inside was tearing itself loose. Then her mouth opened, and for the first time, she screamed. But it wasn't just a scream of pain. It was a scream of release. Her voice echoed like broken glass, like wind wrapped in lightning. The cage shattered at the top, shards of cold metal scattered around the room. Marcus dropped to one knee, covering his head. When he looked up again, she was floating. Elira's feet hovered inches above the floor. Her body was wrapped in pale light. Her long white hair danced, like it was underwater, and her face, it was full of sorrow. "I didn't mean to," she whispered. Her voice was soft, musical, heavy with regret. Marcus stood slowly. "Elira?" Her light dimmed. She dropped to the floor, gasping for air. He ran to her side, knelt beside her. "You're okay," he said. "You're free." She looked at him, shaking. "No, not free," she whispered. "The cage kept it inside." Marcus blinked. "Kept what inside?" Elira gripped his arm tightly. "My power, my mind. I hold things back. If I lose control..." She didn't finish the sentence. But Marcus understood. She wasn't just a prisoner. She was a warning. A fuse wrapped in silence. Alarms blared in, the far halls. The old base was waking up again. Containment breached. Unknown energy detected. Protocol override failed. He looked at her. "We need to get out of here." "No," she said. "They'll come now. They'll know I'm awake." "Then we run," Marcus said. Elira shook her head. "You can still leave. You don't have to stay." Marcus looked her in the eye. "I'm not going anywhere." She stared at him for a long time, then said something she hadn't said since they met. "Why?" "Because you're not a danger," he said. "You're just a girl who was locked away. Afraid." She nodded slowly. "But you reached me." Even in silence, he helped her to her feet. She stumbled. He caught her. Her skin was cold like snow, but alive. Together they walked toward the exit of the chamber, her steps shaky but real. Behind them, the cage melted into the floor. A prison undone. A secret released. That night, they sat near the fire. Marcus handed her a blanket. She wrapped it tightly, staring into the flames like they were ancient. He offered her food. She took it, a bite at a time. No words, just trust. And as the fire cracked and the wind outside howled, Elira whispered again, "Thank you for hearing me." The sky turned red. Marcus had never seen anything like it, not even on Earth, not a sunset, not a storm. This was a warning. He stood at the edge of the frozen ridge near the outpost, eyes locked on the burning horizon. A ship was breaking through the clouds, black, sleek and shaped like a spear, and it wasn't human. Back inside, Elira froze in the doorway. Her body stiffened. Her breath caught. She stared at the rising shape in the sky. "They found me," she whispered. Marcus looked at her. "Who?" She didn't answer. But her eyes, they weren't afraid. They were angry. The ship landed with a hiss. Its legs crushed snow and stone. Giant floodlights clicked on, casting a spotlight over the ruined outpost. Marcus stood in front of Elira, hand on the sidearm he never used. A hatch opened. 5 figures stepped out. Tall, armored, masks glowing blue. They moved with silence, like hunters. One of them stepped forward and spoke in a cold voice. "Subject 014B, by order of the Sovereign Vault, return to containment." Elira didn't move. Marcus stepped between them. "She's not going with you." The lead hunter tilted his head. "You're human. This isn't your concern." Marcus didn't flinch. "It is now." Behind him, Elira said quietly, "They don't ask. They take." The soldiers raised their weapons. Silver light charged at the tips. Marcus didn't move. Elira stepped forward and placed a hand on his back. Then she looked at the soldiers, and for the first time, her voice didn't shake. Go back. The leader took one step forward, and that was a mistake. The wind shifted. The snow around Elira swirled. The air grew colder, thicker. Ice spread from her feet, creeping fast across the ground like living threads. The soldiers aimed, shouted warnings. But it was too late. The ice shot up, grabbing one by the leg and flinging him into the sky. Another fired. The blast hit her, but only turned to mist before touching her skin. Marcus ducked behind a rock, heart racing. He had seen her scared. But this was power. The lead soldier charged. Elira lifted one hand. A wall of ice slammed down between them. He froze mid-step, trapped behind a barrier taller than any human. But she didn't kill them. She didn't even strike again. She stepped back, eyes glowing like fire inside frost. Tell them, she said to the frozen leader. I am no longer yours. The ship backed away, fast. Within seconds it lifted and vanished into the clouds. The sky dimmed, the red glow faded, and silence returned. Marcus stood slowly brushing snow from his coat. That was impressive, he said, trying to catch his breath. Elira turned to him, her face pale, sweat on her skin. I didn't want to, she said. I didn't want to hurt anyone. You didn't, he said. You protected us. She sat down, hard, exhausted. The cage didn't just keep me in, she said. It kept them safe from me. He knelt beside her. And now? She looked at him with tired eyes. Now I have to choose who I want to be. That night the stars were bright. Again, the air still cold. The world still dangerous. But something had shifted. Not just in her, in him too. He wasn't just a man who found a girl in a cage. He was the first person who believed she deserved to be free. The storm was gone. But inside Elira's heart, one still remained. She sat beside the fire, arms around her knees, staring at her hands, gloved in frost that never melted. Marcus stirred the flames quietly, watching her from the other side. He didn't speak. Not yet. He waited. Because after everything they'd seen, she needed space to speak first. Finally, she whispered, I felt it again. The power? He asked softly. She nodded. It's always there. Cold. Silent. Watching inside me. Marcus leaned forward. But you controlled it. You didn't let it control you. She looked up at him, uncertain. What if next time? I can't. He gave her a sad smile. Then I'll be there. To remind you who you are. That night, they moved deeper into the mountain. The old tunnels stretched into a hidden chamber, a forgotten part of the base. Elira paused at the entrance. This place, she said. I remember it. Good or bad? Marcus asked. She placed her hand on the wall. Both. The chamber was circular, surrounded by glowing stone pillars. A large console rested in the center, fused into the ground. As soon as they stepped, closer the room lit up with alien symbols. The walls began to hum. Marcus looked around. Is this? Elira nodded. The heart of the cage. He stepped forward, scanning the interface. This is where they locked you in. She said nothing, only walked to the center and stood still. The lights responded to her, glowing brighter. Welcome back. Hybrid core active, awaiting command. Marcus turned to her. You can shut it down for good. Elira didn't move. She closed her eyes and whispered, I don't know if I should. Marcus stepped closer. Why not? She looked at him, trembling. Because if I do, there's no going back. No safety, no shield. He placed a hand gently on her shoulder. You don't need the cage anymore. Not to protect us. Not to protect yourself. She stared at his hand. You're not afraid of me, she whispered. No, he said. I was afraid of losing you to a lie. The console blinked once. Final sequence requires bonded signal. Marcus blinked. Bonded? Elira stepped forward, understanding. It means trust, connection, two minds. She reached out, her hand to him, no gloves, just skin, just frost, just truth. Do you trust me? She asked. He took her hand without hesitation. Always. The room responded instantly. The floor glowed, the air warmed, the cold lifted from her skin. For the first time since she could remember, she didn't feel frozen, she felt human. The machine began to crumble, not explode, not collapse. Just end. Like it had done its job, and now knew it was no longer needed. They walked out of the chamber slowly, hand in hand. The ice no longer spread from her feet. The wind no longer stung her face, and the stars outside felt closer than ever. That night she spoke without fear. Do you know what I am now? She asked. Marcus smiled gently. You're Elira. You're free. You're not a cage. You're not a weapon. You're just you. She leaned her head on his shoulder. Like that. The snow had stopped falling. Elira stood at the edge of the cliff, the sunrise painting her silver hair with gold. The cold no longer touched her skin. Her breath came easy now. No frost, no cage, just freedom. Behind her, Marcus packed the last of their gear. The base had powered down for good. The old outpost would be buried in silence once more. But this time, no one would be left behind. They had a ship now, small, stolen, and barely holding together. But it flew, and more than that, it was theirs. Elira stepped into the light, her eyes on the open sky. Marcus walked up beside her. Ready? He asked. She nodded slowly. Where will we go? Anywhere, he said. Everywhere, she smiled. Somewhere warm would be nice. They both laughed. The ship lifted off a few hours later, its engines shaking the cliffs as they rose above the frozen planet. Marcus sat at the controls. Elira sat beside him. No chains, no guards, no systems watching her every breath. She was quiet for a long time, then softly she asked, What am I now? Marcus glanced at her. You're someone with a choice. She looked out the window. I don't remember ever having one. Well, you have one now. A few days later, they landed on a lush green moon. Birds flew overhead, trees whispered, in the wind. Sunlight danced across the river. Elira walked barefoot through the soft grass, stopping to touch each petal, each leaf, as if seeing them for the first time, because she was. She had never known a world without cold. Now, warmth welcomed her like an old friend she never knew she missed. Marcus built a small shelter from scrap. Nothing fancy, but Elira said it was the most beautiful home she'd ever seen, because it was hers. That evening, they sat by a fire, no longer out of survival, but peace. Elira looked up at the stars. Do you think they'll come for me again? Maybe, Marcus said honestly. But this time, they'll have to go through me. She smiled and turned to him. They should be afraid. She closed her eyes and felt something new in her. Chest, not fear, not pain, not power. Hope. Later that night, Marcus handed her a small device. She tilted her head. What is it? A message, he said. You can send it across the stars. Say whatever you want. She stared at the device. Then slowly she began recording. Her voice was calm, gentle, full of quiet strength. This is Elira. I was locked, away for what I am, but I've learned that what I am is mine to decide. I'm no longer your weapon. I'm not your mistake. I'm not your prisoner. I'm free, and I'm not alone. She sent the message, into space, into the dark, and then she smiled. Not a small smile, a real one. The camera on Marcus's wrist captured that moment. The girl who once shook in silence behind icy glass, now laughing in the sunlight, hair blowing in the breeze, warmth in her eyes. She wasn't just free, she was alive. And somewhere across the stars, someone would hear her voice and realize humanity didn't just save a life, it taught her how to live.